Welcome back. Welcome back to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast, where we told you we're going to continue to share life experiences. We have another amazing guest. As we told you, all of our guests are amazing. Their testimonies are powerful, and hopefully it will help you if you're going through something similar and don't know where to start. We want to welcome Eleanor Shell to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. Eleanor, thank you for being a guest. It is an honor. If you can come up and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then City Sid is going to kick off the first question.
Great. My name is Eleanor Shell. I am currently on disability due to a traumatic brain injury after I was in a pedestrian versus vehicle accident. 18 months out, life is very different than it was before prior to the accident. I worked as a part-time pastor in a Presbyterian church. I did community work in one of the corridors of opportunities here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I also worked with a charter school whose mission is to eradicate generational poverty through K-12 education, and was the primary caregiver for my 3 kids. And in an instant, life went from all of that to I'm the one at home all the time and needing people to care for me.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you again for being here with us this evening. Like I said, normally we would start, at the beginning of your story here in age anyway, but it pretty much your story is concentrated based to, at the beginning of your accident. So tell us a little bit about, what your life was like at the time. Where were you on your way to? Like, what kind of day was it? Everything that kind of went through your head when you were just like, I can't believe this happened. I was just blah, blah, blah yesterday.
Yeah. So I was 7 months postpartum, and life was a little crazy. We had at the time I had a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 7-month-old. And it was the beginning of summer, June 12th. It was 3 days before my birthday. Had planned me a birthday party. I was going to have a big brunch. I was calling it the Big Hat Brunch, which I haven't done a birthday party just for me in a long time, with girlfriends, and was going to a doctor's appointment to get checked out after some issues I had during pregnancy, to kind of get taken off some medicine and all. And I remember pulling into the parking lot, and it's a parking lot. I hated the parking lot because the spaces are too small. Buildings have gotten now where it's like they have to have so many parking spaces, and so they make as small as possible, but everybody drives big cars, so you can't see, and it's hard to get in and out and that sort of thing. But I was really excited. Beginning of summer, my oldest had just finished kindergarten, and I was so excited to get. I was kind of leaning out in the summer for the first time, where, excuse me, didn't have our kids in a lot of summer camps, and we were just gonna, hang out at the pool and explore the woods and that sort of stuff. And was walking across the main aisle, and bam, I felt something hit my hip. Well, I saw the car coming, felt something hit my hip. Next thing I know, I'm waking up saying, my head hurts right here, and my ear feels clogged. And my 7-month-old was with me. She is fine. I was able to push the stroller enough out of the way that she actually just kind of rolled. The stroller tipped at the end of the accident. She kind of rolled out. But, I thought that day, I walked away thinking, wow, we're really lucky. And then women's brain injuries do what they call bloom. So it's really about day 14 before women know the full effect of a brain impact. And so it kept instead of getting better, you kind of have that impact most days, and then things get better. Things were getting scarier and scarier. So that was yeah, I went from, living a very full, busy, fun, waited a long time to have kids. And I still love, but I was soaking up every moment of being a mother. And someone who gives back to my community and only was able to work in jobs that I felt were meaningful, to not knowing what the next day was going to look like.
I wanted to ask, I don't know if you're able to talk about, if you're not, just I'll ask another question. Did you have to receive medical attention? And if so, how long were you, did you have to stay overnight in the hospital, or were you able to come back home?
So this was remarkable. I'm very lucky. But this story, like it blows my mind every time I tell it or think about it. So I actually know 2 emergency room doctors in our town. And I was very torn, because I was like, I really hope that either Tyler is the man, or Margaret meets us. But I know that they couldn't treat us. They couldn't treat me. And we pull up to the ER. Ambulance door opens, and it's Tyler, and which is his daughter was friends with my daughter, and I just was like, oh, I'm so glad it's you. Knowing he couldn't treat me. And when I went into the ER, they had to separate us, because he's actually the only doctor in Charlotte that could treat both children and adults. So we could have been in the same room. And I don't know if you're mothers or not, but mom juice is real, man. And from the moment my baby went that way on a stretcher and I went that way on the stretcher, the only thing I was thinking about was getting to my baby. And I told them my head was hurting. We were pretty sure that I had a broken leg, which it turned out I didn't, but I did end up having a broken elbow. And, my body was just so inflamed. But they asked me if I have lost consciousness, because that is kind of the big thing. And I said no, because I didn't think that I had. I don't know why I didn't think that I had, because like I said, I remembered being hit in the hip, and I remember I was sat up and hearing my baby cry, and I thought I had just been bumped like 5 feet in front of the car. But in reality, my shoes were actually behind the license plate. So I had been on top of the car and had been thrown off. And so they really didn't do much of a neuro and brain workup that day at the hospital. And because I'm friends with Tyler and he's kind of followed along, he was like, you're a really good example and a good reminder that we cannot believe what our patients say when they come in from an accident like this. Because I was like, I'm fine. When can I go see my baby? I'm fine. When can I go see my baby? And it was 4 days later that I actually was at church and I passed out. We were singing a hymn and I kind of was like, ooh, I'm going to pass out. And I sat down and, just went out. And I told my husband, I said, I think something's wrong with my head. And the crazy thing actually after that was I could not get anyone to see me. My primary care physician was out of town. Urgent care wouldn't see me. We called, because it was a Sunday. So we tried Monday morning calling all the concussion specialists that, people had concussion on their website in Charlotte and the hospitals. No one would see me. I had to go back to the ER to be diagnosed with, at the time, it was called an MTBI, which is mild traumatic brain injury or concussion. Actually, in the year since my accident, the medical community has changed the way they classify brain injuries. And from now on, there's not mild, moderate, severe. It's just a brain injury, because what they had found is there were people who were in comas for 10 days and would wake up and be fine and have no long-term effects. There was some type of healing that went on during that time. And then there are people like me who lost consciousness for less than 30 minutes, which is what put me in the mild category. And my life will never be the same. So that just getting diagnosed was really hard. And then once I was diagnosed, I found out, I went to the first concussion specialist that was highly recommended in Charlotte, and they were like, go sit in a dark, quiet room for 10 days. And so I put an away message on my email and my phone. I'm going to stay off screens and do what this guy says. And luckily, really an acquaintance at the time of mine had sent a text to my phone, and on the away message had my husband's number on it. And she called my husband and said, you've got to get her out of Charlotte. She's not going to get the care she needs here. And kind of a couple of things happened, but I ended up at going to Atlanta to the Complex Concussion Center at the Shepherd Center. Luckily, I have friends and family there, so I had places to stay because it is an outpatient program. But I spent 12 weeks there getting post-acute care for concussions. And had I not done that, I don't even know what life would have been like, because it's been hard enough with having that. But those first few weeks post-concussion are so important. And even once I had that appointment at the Shepherd Center, I actually finally got in with, there was one doctor who had just started in Charlotte about 6 months earlier that I was able to get into, but I couldn't even get evaluated for physical therapy and occupational therapy for 8 weeks from the time I saw him, which would have been 10 weeks post-accident. And I was able to go to the Shepherd Center and start the next day. So that's kind of how it kind of unfolded. And women, I'll say this, women, because I just think it's important for people to know, women, a lot of times their brain injuries go undiagnosed because they do bloom. And by the time they're experiencing symptoms and they're going to the doctor, they don't remember the bump on the head that they had a lot of times. So I've met people, one woman hit her head on the trunk of her car, and 2 weeks later, like couldn't stand up straight without getting dizzy and falling over. And it took them almost 6 months to realize that it was from that bump on the car when she was getting groceries out.
So what was your support system like at that time? Did family step in, friends step in? What changes did it have on how your household was ran? How did it affect you being a mother? Tell us a little bit about all of that.
Well, first of all, we are extremely lucky because I have support system at the wazoo. It's been very humbling because I was the type of person that, I'm the person that would set up a meal train and send it to people. And I'm the type of person that would share the GoFundMe page. And I'm the type of person that, I did fundraising in the community as a professional and as a volunteer. And my therapist tells me and reminds me regularly, because to this day, we're still having to get help, that people who build community have community. And man, do we have community. I have, in big ways and smalls. I have a church that I preached at a few times in Concord, which is about 45 minutes north of here. And I still get cards from them at least once a month, sometimes. And for a long time, it was every week I'd get a card from someone in that church. And we had people bringing us meal. We still have people bringing us meal. Just the last couple of weeks, a neighbor around the corner was like, I'm going to feed your family, one meal for the next 4 weeks. Because cooking is actually one of the things that is very hard to get, a very hard skill to get back after you have a brain injury. And my husband would say he liked to call me the franchise player. And because I did it all in the house. I was the cooker, I was the cleaner, I was the laundry person. Because, as I said, I was later I didn't have my first child until I was 40, and I'd waited a long time to have that role, and I wanted to do it all. And, which probably wasn't super healthy, but it is what it is. And honestly, our house, until really the past month and a half, has kind of been in a time warp. Because, if mom's not going through the kids' clothes and getting rid of the stuff they've outgrown, not sorting through the stuff that, as I said, my son had just finished his first year of kindergarten, sorting through all the kindergarten stuff and throwing away, all the art projects that we don't need to keep forever. No one's doing that. And, so our house really became a disaster area because nothing was leaving. But everything was staying, like, and so, like, we just had rooms that were, as a matter of fact, we just cleaned out our dining room last week, and my birthday flowers were still in there on the table. So, the first 2 months, because like, no one really, you hear concussion and, think about, your kid has a concussion or whatever, and you're like, yeah, it's 24 hours or so. And so, especially the first 2 months, we're like, well, okay, I'm going to do this program in Atlanta and come back and be fine. And then I got to the end of the program and they're like, yeah, well, we work to get you to 40 to 60% better. And I was really bad, like in the intake, like I scored in like the 1 percentile in the way my brain functioned. I had like 3 different types of vestibular issues that took almost the whole 12 weeks to get those fixed. So I couldn't even work on building my balance again because I just had to work on being able to sit up without the room spinning. And so we kind of pieced together childcare and help. Luckily, my in-laws are local, and they really stepped up with our children. We have a great church, and we had babysitters, and we pieced it together. And then by September, we're like, we got to get permanent help. My husband had just started a new job, so he did not qualify for FLMA. He ended up losing his job, which kind of was a blessing in disguise because I don't know how we couldn't have made it through last school year with him working full time in a corporate job. And, we just kept piecing it together. And luckily his prior career had been really commission driven, and he had a deal that closed that helped us get through the first 9 months of financially. And, people kept saying, oh, can we set up a GoFundMe? And we kept saying, no, we don't need that. Eventually we'll get a, settlement. And actually in May of this year, we had to set up we have what's called a give a hand page, because, the expenses for my medical care, my transportation, help in the house with childcare, and then help like keeping it clean, and then additional food, like takeout food. And honestly, it's more expensive to not cook with fresh ingredients, adds up to $5,500 a month. And then we went from a 2-income household to a 1-income household, and for a while a no-income household. And you just can't make that up. Like, even if you do everything right, like I felt like I'd done everything, right. And, it's great if you have 3 months savings, and most people don't even have that if all you do is lose your job. But if you lose your job and you have these extra expenses, like, you're just not equipped. We're just not in a society that's equipped to deal with that. And so our community has showed up time and time again. And as a matter of fact, just today, and we're still getting help. We have an organization here in Charlotte called Simplicity Serves, and they're a team of volunteers that are coming in and helping us sort and organize stuff. Because, like, we kept thinking, oh, well, I'll be better, and then when I get better, I can get the house back to where it was. And not only did I not get better to a point that I could do that on my own, it's so much that even if I was better, it would take me probably another year to go through it. We have some critical repairs that are needed on our home. And, we're worried about feeding our kids most months, getting all the bills paid. And I was on a Zoom call with an organization I used to work with, and I'd written some grants for, about helping them finish up a grant that I had written. And I was asking them about, hey, I know you sometimes do repairs on people's houses. It's an organization that train women on how to repair homes, or how to do construction work. And they have an apprenticeship program where people can work for them for a year and get experience on remodeling and doing things in homes. And they do that at a reduced rate. And I said, could we work out a payment plan or something? And it turns out, because I'm disabled now, there's a program with the city or the county that works with them. And so we are going to be able to get some of the water damage that we had in our house fixed. And it's amazing the way community has shown up, but it's also very hard and humbling, because I want to be the helper, and I was always the helper. And it's hard to be the one that needs the help. And we need help with almost everything, I feel like, still.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to ask, I'm going to piggyback off Sid real quick. What was for your husband, the change within him? Did it cause any, between the both of y'all, stress or depression? Just a lot of the changes, because now the weight changes. You had your roles, he had his roles and responsibilities, and now a lot of the weight shifts on him. So emotionally, how did things change with your husband?
So a couple of things. First thing I want to say is that you stand up and you make those vows, better or worse, richer or poorer, and you think you know what you're committing to. And we had no idea. And my husband has lived into those vows in ways I could have never imagined that either of us would have to. And so powerfully that I am so grateful. He has had people say to him, friends of his and friends of mine, when they hear because some people knew the accident happened and they kind of, okay, Eleanor's having to do rehab or whatever. But until they really see us and are able to talk to us and really see how much things change, they don't understand the stress of it all. And he's had people say, dude, if that was my wife, I'd been out of here. And it has brought us closer as a married couple and brought us closer as a family. And I 100% could, this is the brain injury, could attribute how my children have done and how my children have been in relationship with me since the accident because of the example their father has set for them. He is very affirming of me. He is very protective of me. He really wants me to pace myself, which is something I'm not good at, and that's required of a brain injury. I've had depression. There's a whole thing with brain injuries and how it changes your brain chemistry and affects mental health. I was not prepared for. But he's really struggled too, as a matter of fact. And just in the past week, I have kind of made some commitments and shifts because I'm kind of at a stable place right now. And there's not a lot more that can be done to either make my improvement quicker or go further. That I am we've got to prioritize his mental health and making sure he has the support that he needs. because he, he in some ways, as much as he's a caregiver and that sort of stuff, in some ways he's lost his best friend. I mean, we don't go out on Friday nights anymore. A lot of Friday nights, I don't even stay up after the kids go to bed. So he's alone on the couch on Friday nights. And we were one of those couples that we really are each other's best friend. Like I remember when we were dating, I went to a Taylor Swift concert, which he really had no interest in, but I was like, I wish Blake was here. And I was having a great time with my girlfriends, but it's like, everything's just more fun when he was part of it with me. And, so he's lost a lot of his social life. In addition, taking on he had just graduated. He had gone back to school 2 years before my accident, to get his master's degree to make a career shift. Like I said, he had just started a new job about 6 months before the accident. So here he was, had gone back to school, taking a, kind of a career break, step down to, get the education so he could change careers. And he loses that first job, because he couldn't do it both. Someone had to drive our kids to school, and that meant he couldn't get to the office until 8:30. And when you're in a job for the first year, you need to be first one in and last one out. And he couldn't do that. And honestly has not been able to get back to the level that he should be on. So he is struggling about, he finally took that leap of faith to go back to school to get these new skills. And then this happens to his wife, and he 100% was going to choose his family. But he's wondering, I think, will I ever get my career back? And will I ever be able to provide like I want to provide for my family? And it's just, it makes me sad for him. And I used to tell, when I was a pastor, I would tell people, the caregivers, whether someone had cancer or, whatever, CP or ALS, or, they have a team of professionals looking after them. You have to look after yourself. And it's been very hard for me because I do have a team of professionals looking after me, and he doesn't. And it's almost like I try to encourage him, and he's been in counseling some and that sort of stuff. I try to encourage him to go get, counseling, but he doesn't feel like he has the space or the time to do that. Especially until he gets back into, he does have a job now, until he gets back to his career thing. And I think that's men. And then men also have their whole mental health stuff as well. Y'all are asking really good questions, by the way. These are deep questions.
Is my turn?
Yes, ma'am.
Jeez. Okay. All right. What are, at this point, you obviously are talking with us. You probably have some sense of normalcy in life now. But what are still, your limitations? What is still affected, health-wise? What are some of the biggest hurdles, currently?
Well, first of all, I will do this with you today. I had very limited activities leading up to this. Today I didn't do much this morning to have rest time, and my family and our babysitter nanny knows that tomorrow I won't be taking the lead on anything because I'll need the day to recover. I've had a headache, a pain in my head since June 12th of 2024. It is less severe than it was. It was a migraine level until about May or June of this year. And we have finally gotten the right combination of medicine and then injections that most days it stays around a 1 or 2. And I only speak to migraine now maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, but it does get up a lot. I would say more days than not, it still gets up to a 3 or 4. I cannot, I have trouble with balance still, and like agility. Just this morning or just this afternoon, actually, I was walking, carrying my daughter, and I lost my balance and I fell. Luckily, it was on soft ground and all, but last week I fell. I missed 2 stairs. So my depth perception's off, and my spatial awareness is off. The brain injury affects your nervous system, and so everything is very overstimulating for me. The grocery store is an awful place to go in. I can't go to places with crowds. When I go to see a performance at my kids' school or anything that they do, I wear loop earplugs, and I wear Beats noise canceling headphones. And I wear special yellow glasses to try to tone down the stimulation, because it can make my nervous system out of control, which then causes my headache to spike. And this happened, actually, I had my first really big flare in a while 2 weeks ago, and I'm still in physical therapy having to be treated for that nervous system flare before we can work on the other things I need to work on. My brain, I can talk. I still have the intelligence there, but the way my brain functions is different. So I have a hard time keeping up with details. I get very overwhelmed easily. I cannot cook. It's something about having to do anything that requires cognitive and mental things at the same time. So cooking, laundry, those sort of things. Driving is still very difficult. I can only drive for about an hour a day. And my days I feel like I have about 2.5 good hours a day. And I just have to be very careful how I allot those. And part of the issue, and I'm actually part of a support group that we meet on the first Thursday of every month. So I'm so excited for tomorrow, of moms with brain injuries, because part of the thing is moms take longer to recover because there's only so much you can pace when you're a mom. I mean, my kids have to be fed every morning. They have to go to school. They have to have clean clothes. They have to, they're loud, and so I can't always, just because my symptoms are spiking, I can't always sit in a dark room and let the symptoms, fall down. A lot of fatigue. And then a lot of, we still haven't gotten my mental health, chemistry back to where I feel like I'm in a really healthy, I'm better. But like deep depression is around every corner, which I've never had that issue before. And so now that some other things are stabilizing, I'm really going to start working with my team on hopefully trying to get back to a baseline there.
And I was going to ask, just to follow up with that, because it's so many complications and going through so many things. And I know the fight probably every day is real. Have you ever felt like you just want to give up? And if you feel like that, what motivates you to just be like, nope, I gotta keep going?
I have the 3 cutest and most precious, loving children that shower me with love each and every day. And if I don't have them, I think I would. I have never been as depressed as I was since the accident. And kind of a funny story, when my oldest was born, the day he was born, his pediatrician came to the hospital and saw him. And later that afternoon, we learned that our pediatrician's son was missing. And at the end of the week, it was discovered that he had actually died by suicide because of a concussion. And I remember thinking, okay, what? A concussion caused him to want to commit suicide. And I didn't quite understand it. And then I had this injury, and as I am a grown woman, I had community beyond community. I have 3 amazing children. I have an awesome husband. And had any one of those things been missing, I 100% could see how after a brain injury, someone would want to end it. I never got to that point, but whenever I go to the doctor and I have to do, they have the mental health risk assessment. I mean, I always score super low on it, because you not only does it change your brain chemistry, so you feel like you're just so depressed and have all this anxiety, you also feel like you're crazy, because just like you guys are sitting here saying, gosh, she says she's got a brain injury, but she's talking fine and she looks fine. And, and you have people telling you that all the time. Well, you don't look sick, or, it just, you seem to be talking fine, or, you seem like you've gotten better. But you're in your mind, you're like, no, I'm not. And you feel like you're trapped and like want to scream and be like, can't you see how bad this is? And also, yeah, and I'll say this summer, I really wanted to give up. When I was told, and I'm not going to cry. When I was told that I'd reached maximum medical improvement and there's still so much I can't do. It's like, I don't want to live my life this way. This is not, I have always lived big and large. But I don't want to miss a moment with my children either. I've said since my oldest was born that I could live to be 100, and I would still wish for 10 more years with him, or one more day with him, or like, it's no matter how much time I go with them, it's not going to be enough. And so all I can do is just keep making the best of what I have.
So what type of things were part of your recovery? Like what type of, whether it be physical or mental exercises, if you had to change diets, what type of, health changes did you have to make after the accident?
So I still, I do physical therapy every day. What I think there's a misconception is that physical therapy is what happens when you're in the physical therapist's office. But physical therapy for me is what I do every day. And I go to the physical therapist's office to, honestly, they help relieve the pain and the symptoms that I cause by doing physical therapy every day. So I do my physical therapy is, so one of the things that happens when you have a brain injury is the first thing your body does is all your neck muscles tighten. So because your body's like, I got to protect the brain. And so for like 6-7 months, I could barely move my neck. Then what happens is once your body gets out of that initial fight or flight mode, which can take months, all your muscles relax to the point that you have all these tiny muscles in your back and your neck that hold your head up, and they all lose their strength. So I literally, one of the football players here in Charlotte who had a concussion talks about his recovery, and he says, you have to do the stupidest things. And it's so true. I would literally lay my head on the pillow and lift it like this and then put it down, and was trying to get to where I could hold my head up just this much off a pillow for 30 seconds. And it was over a year before I could do that after my accident. I'm still working on my vestibular system, gets really messed up. And Literally, I have a Post-it note. I wish I had it here because I'd show you. I have a Post-it note on my wall with a dot on it. And I have to look at that dot and shake my head. And I have a metronome that, keeps a rhythm. And I'm slowly building up how quickly I do that. One of the things, you do a lot of what's called habituation therapy, which is where you expose yourself to things that are going to cause your symptoms to flare. Then you come out of it, you calm down, and then you go back. And so this summer, or no, I guess it was in the spring, I would literally go to the grocery store and walk the aisles until my headache went from a 2 to a 4. And when I got to a 4, I'd go sit in the parking lot with my headphones on, put an eye mask on, let the symptoms calm down, and go back into the grocery store and try to stay for 11 minutes. And I mean, I was spending 2 hours a day doing that. And I still don't do great in grocery stores and still try to do that once a week or so. I have to go to bed at the same time every night, and I try to wake up at the same time every morning. I start my day with a 45-minute outdoor walk. That does something about regulating your nervous system and kind of getting that off. I have a very scheduled and routine day as much as possible. It's still hard to do with kids. Trying to think what else. I go to mental health counseling every other week. I go to a psychiatrist once a month to keep all my medication balanced, because I have to be on medication for the mental health, but there's also some medication I have to be on for some of the physical symptoms. And because my brain chemistry is off, we just have to really be careful with that. Some fun things. I'm taking ballet because that uses the same brain pathways that you use for cooking. So, and it doesn't have the emotional baggage for it for me. So hopefully as I continue to work through ballet, I will start gaining skills to cook again. And then I'm just starting cognitive therapy, which is teaching me, I won't gain back some of the mental things I've lost, but it's teaching me skills to compensate for the mental functions that I have lost.
And I was going to ask, I know you mentioned you're doing ballet, you're walking, and you sometimes you fall. Have you ever, what is the struggle with, doing the walking and the ballet and avoiding falling? This is a 2-part. And with the falls, have you ever hurt yourself? Hurt yourself? Because I know different falls can be more severe than others.
So what happens is, so you have this, your vestibular system, which is kind of your inner ears that helps you balance. And that is off for me. So I don't, and then you have that. So my inner balancing isn't working. And then I also, your vision is very much affected, by brain injuries. And so I don't have great depth perception. So sometimes I think something's farther away and I step too soon, or I don't step enough. So there's multiple things going on. Sometimes that wall feels like it's further away than it is, and I bump into it. Knock on wood, through all my falls, I have not hurt myself in any major way. I definitely have some more bruises. A lot of times, like today when I fell, I could feel like my neck has tightened up again. So we're going to have to do some work when I go back to PT on Monday, to get that back worked out. And there's actually people who've had brain injuries who are still in active recovery are at higher risk of getting another brain injuries because of that, because their balance is off, because their depth perception is off. So there is a high chance of re-injuring. And I work really hard to try to have that not happen. But it's kind of the risk that you take. And and why I have to work every day in physical therapy. I mean, one of the things I do, another kind of crazy exercise, like I stand in the corner every day for a few minutes. A lot of times with my eyes, like I started without my eyes closed and now I have my eyes closed and I just have to stand there and try not to fall, but it's in the corner so that if I do fall, I'm hitting the walls. So, and because it is your brain and it's the systems inside your head and your nervous system, like you really just have to trust your professionals. Because I don't know, if you break your arm and you lose your arm strength, like you can tell, okay, now I can lift, a 5-pound dumbbell. Now I can lift a 10-pound dumbbell. Like it's hard to know that your balance is getting better without going, without going to a professional who has ways of assessing those things.
Do you use a timer
For everything?
I just heard a ding. That's
no,
why.
the ding. Oh, that was. Oh, sorry. No, that was actually my something popped up on my computer.
Okay.
Normally, people have said when they record they can't hear the notifications on my computer. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. I was gonna ask, like, do you use a timer for stuff? So yeah. Okay.
No, I use it. I do have I will say actually, I have to have a timer for everything. I have to write everything. Like if it does not get written down, like I could, and this is the other thing about that's frustrating with brain injuries is because people will say, well, I have trouble remembering too. And but it's different. Like, I had trouble remembering stuff too before I had brain. I got 3 kids, but, like I can, and my husband laughs at me because like I can look him dead in the eye and say, okay, I'm going to do, X, Y, Z. And if our kids come in or if I take a wrong turn while I'm driving or, just anything interrupts that brain connection. I can literally like have no recollection of a conversation I had 10 minutes earlier. So.
How, if any, well, no, let me ask this. Is the condition that you have now, or the, state that you're in, is this like degenerative, or are you kind of going to stay, where you are, or can you get better? Like, what is the kind of outlook here?
So the outlook is that I probably, if I continue to work sometime between year 3.5 and 4, I will see another significant jump in improvement. So that's the good news. The bad news is, and kind of the unknown news is, I guess, more than bad news is, honestly, they're just beginning to learn about what long-term effects there are from brain injuries. You may have heard a lot in the news recently after the shooting in New York, where the guy thought he was shooting up the NFL headquarters, about a condition called CTE, which that comes from having multiple impacts. So a lot of ex-NFL players, and they're finding now even like kids who only play football through high school have it. And actually, I just lost a friend in August who played football through college, and he was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's at, I think he was 51 when he was diagnosed and died at 57 from what they suspect is CTE. They can't tell for sure until after someone has passed if he actually had CTE. So so it's really hard. I'll say it's really scary, I guess, because and there's not a lot of research that's been done on women because we're not NFL players, and there's just not medical research done on women in general. So we don't know. There are some parts of me that will never come back, no matter how hard I work. And so it's just learning to live around it. I am hopeful for some more improvement over the next few years. I am hopeful because in my mom's group, there are women who are 5 to 8 years out who have seen and are in better places than I am now. But I also kind of feel like I'm going to be walking around with this ticking time bomb for the rest of my life, not knowing when something else major could pop up.
And I want to ask real quick, does the brain injury, does it affect your eating? Are there changes in your eating habits?
Yes. That's that. And so here's the other thing with the brain injury. And it's like with any major, like you really have to triage kind of some, because it affects, I mean, it's your brain, it affects everything. And there's been a lot of research recently, and people are really starting to pay attention to how brain injuries affect women concerning hormones, and which affects your eating. And I have noticed it took me a while. I mean, honestly, it's been in the past couple of months. So like I said, I'll be 18 months out next week. Like I don't eat as much as I used to. I wish my body looked like I didn't eat like as much as I used to, but part of it is, and my body's not processing food because I'm not fueling it in the proper way. And I've talked to my physical therapist who specializes in brain injuries, and eventually they would like me to get on an anti-inflammatory diet where I'm eating, smaller regular meals and cut out things that can cause inflammation. But the issue with that is that I don't have the brain power to plan my meals and, to make sure I'm eating that way. And so we want to get me further along before we really start focusing in on diet and more heavy exercising and such. I just in the past week, we've introduced, I am now drinking 2 protein shakes a day to up my protein. So I at least am getting some of the vitamins and the proteins that I need.
Okay. Oh my God, we are almost at time. This hour has went by so fast.
Like I said, y'all asked great question. I mean, it's been intense because y'all asked, it's not surface level.
Yeah. That's the beauty of it. You never know what you're going to get. And we want to bring as much transparency to the audience as we can, because you never know. It's so many people, not probably, there is a ton of people that are going through what you have been through and still going through. And hopefully the resources that you just provided will be able to help them navigate through some of their struggles that they are going through. So I'm going to say, keep up the fight, keep going, keep doing what you're doing. I want to ask, as we ask everyone, can you give the audience, from your personal life experience, something that may help someone going through the same situation that they're going through, just something to motivate them and just to keep them going?
I'm going to give, can I do 3 things? So, number 1, your doctor and your medical team should be your partners, because they may be an expert in the books, but you're the expert on you. And if you have a doctor or care provider that you are not connecting with, and you feel like it's not listening to you, and you feel like it's not your partner, that is not the medical provider for you. I don't care how qualified they are. And I think far too often we stay, especially women, tend to stay with people because they're the expert and they know better and that sort of stuff. And that's why a lot of women continue to suffer through brain injuries without proper care. And also, I mean, we could do a whole nother episode about how the medical community treats women and don't believe our pain, and that sort of thing. Number 2, community. Even if you never have anything like what I'm going through, we need community, and we don't have it like we did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 100 years ago. We don't live in neighborhoods and go to church and go to school and go to the same grocery store with the people who live around us like people used to do. Find community in some way, and somehow, and I'll say from my experience, the best way to find community is to give to your community, because most of my closest friends and my husband's closest friends, we've met through things that we've done to serve others and things that we've done to improve ourselves. So never stop serving others and never start improving yourself. And number 3 is, it is okay to have a bad day or a bad season and not jump to hope. I hate this, and I hated it before this, and I definitely hate it now, when people say things like, well, you have to have rain to get a rainbow, or, at least you're not, in my case, at least you can still walk. At least you're still here. At least, that. I know that. But when things like that are said to you, and when you try to push yourself into believing those things and counting your blessings, which I think there's a place for, you minimize the truth of what is hard in this moment. And we do it to ourselves and we do it to each other. And if I could have one message that everyone walked away with, is you don't have to be okay. And you don't have to, and on the other hand, if you are someone who is with someone, who is walking beside someone who is having a bad season or facing something that's life-shaping or life-changing, if you don't say anything, you're not going to say the wrong thing, and you don't have to say anything. They need someone to sit next to them and say, I see you and I'm here for you. And we want to try to make it better as for ourselves and for others. But some things can't be made better in an instant, but the burdens can be shared, which help them be lighter.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much for your wise words and advice. We do want to give you the chance to participate in Shameless Plug. You see all of your information scrolling here at the bottom. If you can let our viewers, know how they can contact you if they are going through something similar, if that's okay. If there's anything that you want to or that you advocate for, that you want to draw traffic to, reiterate your fundraiser for yourself and your family, where they can go to find that. Pretty much anything you want to put in spotlight, you have the floor.
So, you can, my Instagram is Reclaiming My Brain, which is where I am trying to share what it's like to try to keep pushing on after the doctors say you may not get any better. So that's a great way to contact me. I have launched a Substack called Resilient Magnolia. I am on week 7 of an 8-week collection called the Bad Day Collection, where I'm talking about different aspects of bad days and how we need to know how to sit with them as individuals and as people who support that. And out of that, I'm also actually have a website called resilientmagnolia.com, because I have written some journals and created some projects, and I'm actually working with some partners to create what I'm calling the bad day collection, that if you have someone who's facing something, you'll be able to go to the site and put together a bad day box for them and send it to them. And there's going to be coffee, and there's going to be socks, and there's going to be jewelry, and I don't even know what else, cups. I'm still reaching out to people saying, hey, would you like to be part of this? And what's been amazing is everyone I've reached out to has said, yes, the world needs something like this. And I was going to do a Kickstarter, and that's just too complicated for me. So we have I have a partner who's a friend of mine who's doing all my design work and stuff for free. We set up a page, a Buy Me Coffee page, which is where you can just make a donation. And it's Resilient Magnolia as well. And we're trying to, our goal, and we haven't really officially launched, but we've put it out there, is to raise $20,000 by January, so that we can get the journals and stuff printed. And if you give at certain levels, you'll be the first to get a journal. Are some of the other partnerships that we're doing, but those are kind of my big things, is really just advocating and spreading the word about, let's have a bad day. Let's live in it, and let's be real. I have a greeting cards as part of it. And like one of them has two people on the front with a little umbrella and a big storm. And it says, man, the storm is really big. And on the inside, it says, my umbrella's not, but I'll get wet with you. And so it's an opportunity to really send cards that are impactful to people, to let them know that you are there with them and you see the mess that they're in, and you're not going to be able to fix it, but you're going to stay with them through it.
Love it. This has been another amazing episode. We want to thank you so much for being a guest on Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. And you made it. You made it through you made it. So that's the good thing. And, I hope we didn't put too much stress on you through the interview.
No, you're so easy. So easy to talk to. Big stuff, but, easy.
Thank you. Thank you. And guess what, everyone? We're going to keep sharing life experiences. Ain't that right, City said?
That's right.
That's right. So thank y'all for tuning in each and every Monday at 8 p.m. Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube, Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. We have some amazing testimonies, and it's all resources to help you. So we will see you soon. Peace.
Thank you.
My pleasure.